In a quiet American suburb, where neat lawns and picket fences lined the streets, the homeowners association was the silent power that ruled the neighborhood. But one man, an Army veteran, was about to challenge that authority, and in doing so, ignite a battle that would divide the entire community. This is the story of John Miller, a decorated war veteran, and Margaret Hill, the strict HOA president who believed that no one was above the rules. The camera pans across the neighborhood. Children ride their bikes. Sprinklers water fresh grass. A golden sunrise fills the sky. From a modest wooden cabin at the edge of the community, John Miller steps out. He's in his late 40s, wearing a faded camouflage jacket with patches from his service days. His walk is slow, steady, proud. A group of kids wave at him. Kid: "Good morning, Mr. Miller." John, smiling: "Morning, soldiers. Don't be late for school." To them, he's more than a neighbor, he's a hero. Across the street, standing with a clipboard, is Margaret Hill. Sharp suit, sharp eyes, a woman in her mid-50s, who has dedicated her life to enforcing neighborhood order. She watches John's cabin with disapproval. The American flag hanging outside his porch is slightly larger than HOA regulations allow. His driveway has old friends visiting, sometimes veterans like him, sometimes children learning discipline. To Margaret, it looks like chaos. Margaret, muttering to herself, "This isn't a military camp. This is a residential community, and every resident follows the rules." That afternoon, Margaret walks up to John's porch with her clipboard. "Margaret, Mr. Miller, your flag violates the association's size policy, and your cabin has too many visitors. You need to correct this within 7 days." John, calm, respectful: "Mrs. Hill, that flag isn't just fabric. I carried it through 2 tours overseas. It's the reason some of my brothers made it home. With respect, it stays." Margaret frowns, writing something on her clipboard. "Margaret, sentiment does not excuse violation. Rules are rules." She turns and walks away. Word spreads quickly through the neighborhood. At the local cafe, whispers fill the air. Neighbor 1: "John Miller fought for this country. He deserves respect, not harassment." Neighbor 2: "Respect doesn't mean breaking rules. If he gets an exception, what about the rest of us?" Some neighbors begin to stand behind John. Others quietly support Margaret. The community is now fractured. At night, John sits in his cabin. On the wall hang medals, photographs of his unit, and letters from comrades. He picks up one letter, his voice breaking as he reads silently. John to himself: "I didn't survive battlefields just to bow down to a clipboard and regulations. My fight isn't for me. It's for what this flag stands for." His resolve hardens. A few days later, Margaret returns, not alone. This time she's flanked by 2 local police officers. The neighbors gather around, watching closely. Margaret, pointing at the flag: "Officers, remove it now." John, stepping forward, firm voice: "Touch that flag, and you dishonor every man and woman who bled for it." The officers hesitate, caught between authority and respect. The tension is thick, silence weighing heavy. Suddenly, a black government car pulls up. From it steps David Ross, the state attorney general, in a crisp suit exuding authority. The crowd gasps. Why is the attorney general here? What began as a neighborhood dispute has now escalated into something far greater. A veteran's pride, a president's authority, and the law itself are now colliding. And with the attorney general stepping in, the real battle is only about to begin. The attorney general's sudden arrival froze the crowd. Margaret's confident posture faltered for the first time. She straightened her blazer, forcing a smile, as if this was still under her control. "Margaret, Attorney General Ross, what a surprise. This is a small community issue, nothing requiring your—" Ross, cutting her off: "When a citizen's rights are threatened, Mrs. Hill, it becomes my issue." He turned toward John, his voice calm but commanding. "Boss, Mr. Miller, I've heard about your service. You defended the Constitution overseas, and it's my job to defend it here. Please tell me what happened." John kept his composure, though his voice carried weight. "No, sir, my family cabin sits outside the HOA's authority. The deed is clear, but Mrs. Hill believes her clipboard is stronger than the law. She tried to hand out my cabin as if it were hers. Then she tried to strip my flag from the porch." The crowd erupted into murmurs. Some neighbors shifted uncomfortably, realizing the extent of Margaret's actions. Others pulled out their phones, recording every second, Ross looked at Margaret, his expression stern. Ross, is this true? Margaret, defensive. This community survives on rules. If one man ignores them, the whole neighborhood collapses. I did what was necessary for order. John stepped forward, his tone sharp now. John, order without respect is tyranny. I fought men who believed power gave them the right to control others. I won't bow to that here, not in my own home. The neighbors gasped at the boldness of his words. Some clapped softly, others looked at Margaret with doubt. Ross raised his hand, silencing the crowd. Ross, Mrs. Hill, your authority ends where private property begins. The law is clear. This cabin is not under HOA jurisdiction. Any attempt to seize it or to intimidate Mr. Miller is unlawful. Margaret's face flushed red. She turned to the neighbors, desperate. Margaret, you see? He's dividing us. He refuses hospitality. He disrespects our traditions. If he stays, this community will fall apart. Before Ross could reply, Patricia Lowell, a neighbor who had been quietly filming, stepped forward. Patricia, no, Margaret. The community is falling apart because of fear. You promised control, but all you've given us is tension. We came here for peace, not for battles on porches. Other neighbors nodded. A man spoke up. Neighbor, John isn't dividing us. He's reminding us what respect looks like. Margaret's authority was unraveling in front of her. She clutched her clipboard as if it could shield her. But the crowd no longer stood behind her. Ross looked around at the people. Ross, the measure of a neighborhood isn't how strictly rules are enforced. It's how well neighbors treat each other. Tonight you've all seen the difference between leadership and control. Margaret tried one last time, her voice breaking. Margaret, you'll regret this. Without rules, this place will descend into chaos. John walked to his porch slowly, turned and spoke loud enough for all to hear. John, chaos doesn't come from freedom. It comes from forgetting why freedom matters. My flag stays, my cabin stays, and anyone here who needs help, my door is open. That's community. The silence that followed was powerful. Then one by one, neighbors began clapping. First Patricia, then the young couple. Then even Gerald Hinton, who had once stood with Margaret. The sound grew, echoing across the lake. Margaret, defeated, lowered her clipboard. Her eyes burned with anger, but she knew the battle was lost. Without another word, she turned and walked down the gravel path. Her footsteps swallowed by the night. Ross placed a hand on John's shoulder. Ross, you faced worse battles than this. But sometimes the hardest fight is the one at home. Tonight you won more than just your rights. You reminded this community who they are. John nodded, his eyes misting. He looked at the flag fluttering above his porch, catching the moonlight. For him, this wasn't just about a cabin. It was about honor, family, and the promise he made long ago, to protect what mattered no matter the cost. The neighbors slowly dispersed. Their whispers no longer about fear or rules, but about respect. And as John sat back in his rocking chair, the night finally grew quiet. The fight was over, but its lesson would echo in Lake Brantley for years to come. Some weekends change you forever. For John Miller, this one had turned into a battle, but it was also the weekend he learned that sometimes standing your ground is the only way to keep peace alive.